Welcome back everybody. Like I promised in the last video, which has, by the way, over 700 views. Thank you for this. Today I'll show you how to make these awesome and simple trench style bases. These can be used for your Imperial Army, your World War II or I army, and many other armies or models. You'll need these colors for your trench base. And if you want the same water on your base, then you'll need a bit of resin too. So let's not waste any more time and get straight into building the base. We first want to start with the wooden planks of our trench. For these you can either use coffee stir sticks, like I did, or balsa wood. I'm just cutting these to shape and add a little bit of wood grain on the sticks. If you want, you can add some sandbags or other obstacles like razor wire. My razor wire was created by just wrapping a little bit of 1 mm thin wire around a brush. The sandbags were part of a 3D print from my Valor corpse we painted in the last video. You can find the video in the upper right corner and in the description. But for your sandbags, you don't need a 3D printed part. You can just use a random bit you have laying around or create them yourself with some milliput. After my wooden sticks are glued in position, I added a bunch of fine and medium grain structure paste on the base. To add a little bit of detail, I wanted some water puddles on my base. To achieve this, I poked some holes into the structure paste. Now that we have our earth texture on the base, we stick our razor wire into the structure paste, a little drop of super glue, and then we let our bases dry for a day. That was the main building part of the base. Now we just want to prime them. Since my Death Corps of Creek Army was primed with a zenithal highlight, I'm going to prime them in a zenithal highlight. That means first some pure black through my airbrush and then some white from above. But you can just easily prime them in black or grey. After our bases are primed, I first want to paint the earth. For this, I'm using a cheap burnt umber acrylic paint from the craft store. Just thin your paint and brush it all on. And don't worry if you hit other spots. We are going to paint over them. Then we want to paint the wooden planks. For this I'm using Dryad bark from Games Workshop. It's a really nice and dark wooden color. With all the ground done, we want to paint the sandbags and skulls we've put on our base. Some Iraqi sand from Vallejo will do the job just fine. If you, like me, added a few rocks here and there, then we want to paint them with some Stonewall grey. So, on to the final parts of our base colors. The metal. All our razor wire and other metal parts are going to get a coat of gunmetal. That's our base coats finished. And now we add some magic to our bases. And this magic is called Oilwash. We want to coat the whole base with this Oilwash. This Oilwash is pretty much a 50-50 mix of burnt umber and ivory black oil paints. What's good about oil washes is, first, they look really grimdark, and second, you can remove them with some Q-tips and a bit of white spirit. On to the last steps of our base. First, we want to add a bit of punch to the ground. To achieve this, we get either some Zandri dust, Iraqi sand, or Bonewhite to dry brush it onto the base. Any off-white color will do the job just fine. I'm going to dry brush the base with some Iraqi sand first. The best way to dry brush is to get a makeup brush and remove most of the paint into a kitchen roll. But I was thinking this is a little bit too dark, so I went back and dry brushed some Bonewhite onto the base. But we want to add a little bit of darkness to the base, that the trenches look like they are worn down over time. So we grab our dried rust and dried blood effect and just put a little bit onto the base. If you don't want to add any water puddles to your base, then you are done. These are the trench style bases complete, but I wanted to add a little bit more. So, to protect my paint job, I sprayed my base in a matte varnish. To spray them with matte varnish now instead of after adding the resin it will assure me that my water puddles are shiny. For the water I mixed 50-50 resin and hardener into a little cup. A friend and I recently discovered the best paint to use for some muddy and dirty water, while making his Dev Corps bases. This color is Russian Uniform from Vallejo Model Color. I put 2 drops of this paint into the resin and mixed it all together. After some time mixing, I let it sit for a few minutes. Then I grabbed a pipette to add a few drops of the mixed resin into the holes I created beforehand. But I added the resin onto a few random spots as well. Now we just wait 24 hours for the resin to cure. To protect my cats from tasting the resin and the resin from collecting dust while hardening, I put them into a small container and let them sit for a day. After we waited for a day and the resin had some time to cure, we get this. And now we just paint the rim of the base in black, and then I called it good. This is what our final result looks like. Now our bases are finished and are ready to see the battlefields. Thank you for watching, and I hope you've enjoyed and learned a thing or two. If you enjoyed the video, be sure to let me know by hitting the thumbs up button. But most importantly, don't forget:
blood for the blood god, skulls for the skull throne.